Hey everyone, welcome to the Friday live stream. How y'all doing?
Hello? Crappy.
Yeah. We have a guest, Ed, from you're from the Discord, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Ed, why are you here?
Well, I'm glad you asked. I wanted to talk to Bob about big honking magnets.
Oh boy, big magnets.
Yeah.
All right, what do you got?
Because I've been working with data from big honking magnets for like 23 years now. So,
What kind of magnets?
What's that?
What kind of magnets?
The material you mean?
Yeah.
Well, some of them are typical magnet materials like neodymium, things like that. But they've been magnetized to an extraordinarily high level, and they're actually kind of dangerous to even be around.
Really?
If you have things like pacemakers and such like that, or metal tools in your pocket, or a credit card with a magnetic strip on it, you don't want to be near these things. And I mean, they're so big that back in the days when I started in 2000, remember CRTs?
Mm-hmm.
At 30 feet away, it would distort and twist and miscolor the image of a CRT.
30 feet.
Yeah.
Wow.
So could the magnet rip a tool like out of your pants? Is that what
yeah.
would happen?
Well, probably not denim, but
Yeah.
it depends on how close. But there are safety protocols that were always used out in the shop for these things. And one time, this was a long time ago, so it's at a company that no longer exists. So two of these magnets got a little too close together, spun around, stuck together, and it took a 5-ton overhead crane and a forklift to pull them apart.
Oh my God.
Wow.
So that's how powerful they are. And I work with the data from them. I have education in electrical engineering, but I've always worked as a software developer. So it's kind of interesting. You kind of wonder where the data is used.
Where the data what?
Where the data gets used, how it gets used.
I want to see these magnets. How big are they? Are they like hockey puck size?
It varies in size. No, the ones I'm talking about were like 12, 14, 16 inch, like a donut.
Yeah, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're pretty wild. So there's an industry that few people know about called pipeline integrity technology.
Yeah.
And that's where I work. Anybody ever heard of a smart pig?
A smart pig?
Yeah.
And not in the way that you have, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Wilbur from Charlotte's Web is smart.
Poor people.
I'm terrific.
Well, the smart pig is actually an instrument that goes through the pipeline, and it records data about the condition of that pipeline.
Yep.
And companies like the one I work for and the one I used to work for make these instruments and provide the service of recording and then analyzing the data to assess the condition of the pipeline.
Oh, I think I saw one in the James Bond movie a long time ago.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh no, it was welding. That thing was welding the inside of the pipe.
Yeah, that's a little different. Ours just inspect them after they've been built.
Okay.
And one of the technologies it uses is called magnetic flux linkage. And that's what the magnitude for it. It's similar to an MRI, except it's like a type signal. And we have an array of Hall effect sensors, and as this thing goes through the pipeline, it digitizes and records data. And then we download it afterward, and we look at the waveforms, which look similar to low frequency audio, and look for certain perturbations which indicate certain anomalies. And it's all physics-based stuff, and I work with another guy that writes algorithms, and I write detection methodologies, and we put it all together, and it helps assess the condition of the pipeline.
What language is that
It
written
costs a
in?
lot of money to hire a company to do that.
It does, but you know they make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Those pipeline operators make quite a bit, so.
Ian, are we having audio issues? Ian? I guess we are.
lost Ian.
Earth to Ian.
I can't
Steve,
hear
we
Steve.
can't hear you, Steve.
Who's talking now? We can't hear him.
Muted me, that's why.
Okay.
There we go.
All right.
Does that
we
sound
hear you
better?
now.
Should be better.
Okay. So I had a rough week, guys.
Oh boy. Yes, Jay did.
Yeah.
I had a
Still
very
happening.
bad week. I had gastroenteritis.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who don't know what that is, it's debilitating. Like it was really debilitating. Like so, basically, your intestines, it's like a bacteria that infects your intestines. It could be a virus as well, but
It's probably a virus. If it were bacteria, you'd be in a lot worse shape.
Really?
Oh, I didn't know that, Steve.
Yeah.
So your intestines get an infection, and then your body, does two things to get rid of it. And one of them comes out one end, and one of them comes out the other end.
Yeah.
And I had this happening since Monday night. Holy, unbelievable Christ! It was a horrible experience, and it took until to this day. I mean, I definitely feel better today, but I have absolutely no energy. Like
Yeah.
I was so tired yesterday that my eyes couldn't focus.
Yeah, it takes a lot of energy to focus your eyes.
It
Well, I don't
actually
know what
does.
it was. Maybe it's dehydration. I don't know what would cause my eyes not to focus, but like,
Yeah, how much have you eaten in the past week? The past month since Monday, what have you eaten?
I calculated that I've had 500 calories in the past 4 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's bad. But then
Wow.
again, the bacterial version, that's dysentery. That kills people. You know?
Yeah. Well,
From what, Steve? Is it just the rapid dehydration?
Yeah. You can't hydrate.
Yeah, you have to be in a
You need
hospital.
IV hydration. Yeah,
IV
you need
hydration will
hospitalization.
save you.
Well, it's
And
like
then
in a
you
lot
blamed
of
me.
prior to modern times, most people died of dysentery.
Jay, you gonna tell everybody you blamed me for your sickness?
Oh no, I do blame Ian. I blame Ian completely. Because Ian had a 1 day version of it.
I had food poisoning though.
Yeah, but
How do you know?
I still blame you. It doesn't
Well,
matter.
Because I
But I
ate.
call Ian tells me on Monday night we're recording AQ6, and so what happened? You told me the next day, Ian. I think that no.
No, it was the day I was
Day
we
of, day
I was
of.
doing AQ6 laid up in bed, and I like run to the bathroom between you guys talking. Not
I
to get
thought it
too
sounded
graphic.
shitty.
Yeah, it was very roomy in the.
Sorry.
The only reason I know is because I've had food poisoning or something similar, like 5 times before, and so it's the same kind of thing.
5 times.
Yeah, I had
Yeah,
it once in
it's a lot.
India, twice, which was the reason why I don't eat sliced pizza. I have to eat the whole pizza because I've gotten it like 3 times from pizza places, like sliced pizza.
Yeah, sliced pizza is actually
Terrible.
it's a bad health thing to pick sliced pizza. You don't know how
Yeah.
long it's been sitting there.
But it was
And
like
it
a
always
day. I
looks
was done.
rubbery. You know, when it looks
Yeah, it's not
rubbery,
good.
don't eat it.
Yeah. But anyway.
So
I
anyway,
didn't
so
give it to
Ian
you.
had a day and a half of this, and I remember telling him on Monday night, "Holy shit, I've had that before. I know how bad it is, but this bout that I had was worse than anything I've ever had before." You know, it's just weird. Like, you know, COVID. When I got COVID, like COVID dropped the bottom out of my energy in a way that I have never felt before, and this rivaled that. Like, you know, you have zero capacity to do anything. Can't even. I had my blood pressure drop. See, why does this happen, by the way? Is that from dehydration when you get sick like this? Because my blood pressure dropped at one point and I got
Mhm.
tingly all over my body, and then I couldn't think. I was like sitting on the floor in the bathroom for like 10 minutes. I couldn't think.
Yeah, dehydration will do that.
Yeah, I guess I got dehydrated then. Yeah, just watch out,
But
man.
also, your blood pressure could drop independent of the dehydration because having a lot of stomach pain activates your vagal nerve, which is parasympathetic, and it drops your blood pressure.
Yeah, that's
That's why
scary
people
though.
could pass out from that. Like people have what we call vasovagal syndrome, where they just pass out because of either nausea or, even just a fright could do that, or a disgusting odor, or panic. Any of those things can do that.
Well,
Jay,
if you
remember
feel,
my
if you,
story,
what's that, Bob?
my work story when I passed out at work.
Was that vasovagal, Bob? Because you know, as soon
Yeah.
as you feel it coming on, you're supposed to sit down on the floor.
Lay down.
Or
Yeah,
lay
I
down,
think
yeah.
I had like probably one of those 3-hour stomach bugs. I think I had bad eggs for breakfast at work, and I'm sitting at work, and the next thing I know, my head is on the table. I'm like, what just happened? Why was my head on the table? I had no idea what happened. So I was talking to my girlfriend at the time, and she's like, feel your pants. Did you pee a little bit in your pants? And I'm like, holy crap, I did. She's like, you passed out. You passed out. So I'm like, holy crap, I passed out.
So you pee your pants when you pass out?
Just
You
let
can.
loose, man. There's nothing holding it back. So I talked to Steve, and Steve's like, yep, this is what you got to do, Bob. If you start feeling lightheaded again, lay down on the floor. And that could kind of short circuit it and prevent you from passing out. Or if it doesn't, it'll prevent you from killing yourself.
Yeah.
So 2 hours go by, and I start feeling lightheaded again. And I didn't want to, classic mistake, I didn't want to lay down on the floor at work. So I was going to walk to a meeting room. Big mistake. Next thing I know, everyone's looking over at me. I'm on the ground.
And,
I passed out and fell down like a sack of shit. I could have really hurt myself.
Yeah.
I landed on my coccyx bone, which hurt for like a month. They brought me to the ER. It was like a whole thing, but it was nothing. It was just a stupid little.
Because you didn't listen to me.
Right. Exactly.
oh my God.
Exactly. But that was
Lay down before you fall down. Yeah.
When
absolutely.
those things happen, though, it's so humbling because you're perfectly healthy. Literally, in one moment you're perfectly healthy, and then an hour can go by, and your body is trying to get rid of something, and it humbles you all the way down to, oh my God, like you don't have a life at that point.
Mhm.
And I lost a lot of weight. It was really weird. It was just a weird experience. Like you don't want it.
And I have a show and tell. You guys want to look over?
Yeah. What do you got?
Let's do it.
What do you think that is?
Whoa!
That's a cover of one of our books.
And you got the book. What you talking about? It's the book.
It's our book. It's our first book. What language do you think that is?
Well, we know, right? We know. You're not asking us. You're asking the audience.
Yeah.
Come on, audience.
I didn't hear about this.
What? Okay.
Bob, I
You
haven't
weren't
looked
paying
at my
attention.
phone in 4 days, man.
There you go. That's why.
You must have had diarrhea when.
Well, I'm seeing a sheep and a wolf on there. That's
It's
kind
Korean. I have no idea what's going on that cover, though.
Does anybody know Korean? Please translate this book cover for us, because they might be calling us punks.
It's interesting, right?
Yeah, it's definitely different. Not as good as the Chinese cover, but
Chinese cover was it was.
it was really cool, really pretty.
Here's the text.
So how many did you get?
Just 3, I think.
Oh, cool. One for me and one for Jay. Excellent.
The same publisher picked up our second book.
Can I unmute
awesome. It's happening. It's really cool to see that book get published all around the world.
Yeah, it is. I got to add that to my library, Steve.
Yeah.
Ed, how many times have you read our book? Be honest.
How many? How many times have I read your book?
What's that?
How many times have I read it?
Yeah.
Only once, but I influenced a whole bunch of other people to read it. The whole book club in my humanist group read it.
Oh,
Nice.
That's
Yeah.
Nice.
So I keep trying to get them to get more involved. So you start listening to the podcast? Well, off and on. But I'm trying.
More pressure, man.
I've met like 3 other SGU fans in town here. It's not a big town, but
Where are you, Ed?
northern Michigan.
Okay.
I don't know if you can, up by the pinky of the hand.
The pinky.
model. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Ed, you have carpal tunnel?
Yes, I do.
Are you
I
going
went
to
on
get
a bike ride yesterday and it aggravated it, so I'm wearing them a lot right now.
So I got the surgery in one hand. It worked perfectly.
My doctor told me unless you're going to change careers, you might as well not.
Oh, really? Why?
Because I got it from typing and mousing, and that's what I do.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess I got mine from the same place, but from after talking to the surgeon, they cut the tendon, and then when
No. Well, sort of. I mean, it's not really a tendon. It's a sheath. It's like a little, like it's a band like this, and the tendons go through it, and the median nerve does too. So if it swells, it's got no place to go. So it basically squeezes the median nerve.
Yeah, but like when they cut it, it's this thing right here.
They open it up like that. That's all.
They cut it, and then it heals back longer, so you
Or
have more
wider.
space in your wrist. Yeah.
Girthier.
Anyway, I just wanted you to know, just in case.
Yeah, it's manageable though with these though, so
Does it bother you when you sleep? Is that when it hits you?
If I don't have them on when I'm working during the day, it will bother me when I sleep. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the part that I was like, I can't do it anymore. I was putting up with it because it would happen when I'd use hand tools and stuff, and then when it affected my sleep, I'm like, I'm not doing this.
I have a physical coming up. Maybe I'll revisit it with him, see what he says now, if something's changed, in his viewpoint.
So we have some cool progress on our new book, which I'm excited about. We have basically all of the marketing has been laid out up until launch, up and through launch day, which is cool. Like we know what's basically going to happen now. And we got the website coming up very soon. So I'm really excited for the 3 of us to get out there and start meeting people and going on the, it's going to be a mostly a remote book tour, but we're going to go in person to a few places.
I will be spending July in the studio doing the audio version.
Now you're doing it with a British accent this time, isn't that correct, Steve?
I was going to go either British or
Batman.
Australian. What do you think?
Australia.
Talk like Batman.
Do the whole book like Batman.
Oh my
That
God.
reminds me, Steve, can I tell you? So when I first kind of got into skepticism like 10 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
I found your Great Courses series.
Mm-hmm.
And because I recognize that, well, these are kind of like the foundations of it, I listened to it like 5 times.
Smart.
Yep. And a lot of it did stick. And I'm thinking lately it's like, well, maybe I need to go back and listen to it again. But
Pressure.
it was helpful. I really enjoyed it.
Great. Yeah, those are fun to do. That was, almost as much work as writing a book, doing each of those courses. Because they were 24 30-minute lectures.
Wow.
That I had to write and reference and everything, and then record in the studio. It was I don't know how long the audio book came out. The audio version of the first book. It might be longer.
Did you
No, it's
write
maybe
all of them?
about 60-70% as much work, huh?
You wrote them out long, just typed out all of the lectures,
No.
bullet point type thing.
I used a on the prompter I just had points that I would riff off of, each one like about a minute.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't have to have. I would think that they'd want you to like have it out on a teleprompter.
So they gave me the choice. Is that some people write their text, like they write it out and they just read it word for word. But other people are more extemporaneous. They do it like more like a lecture. So I chose to do it that way.
Of course
'Cause
you
I'm used to doing it that way. It was fine.
So because I had some time on my hands this week, I watched The Offer.
Yeah.
How
And
far?
I thought it was awesome.
You
Yeah.
finished
Wasn't it
it?
fun?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I mean, so this is the show that is about the making of The Godfather, the
The
movie
Godfather.
back
Yeah.
in the 70s, and it's
Wonderful.
pretty. It gives you a complete understanding of all the all the different types of work and people involved, and the complexity and the drama of creating a Hollywood level movie at the time. Sure, today it's an order of magnitude probably more complicated. But it's really cool because this dramatization really shows you just all the different types of personalities, and the like the backstabbing, all of the crap behind the scenes that happens to get a movie made. And it was done. The show itself was fascinating to watch, but it wasn't just interesting. It was super entertaining. It had a very high entertainment value.
Yeah.
And now I'm really dying to see the movie again.
Right. That's why Bob and I watched the movie after we finished watching the series. Yeah, it was fun. When they're talking about things that we now take for granted, like at the time, I guess it was standard procedure to do a very limited release of even like a major studio movie because they didn't want to invest a lot of money in doing a massive release if the movie wasn't going to do well. Right? So they were just risk averse, and the producer, not Ruddy, but what the other guy who was kind of an ass through the movie, one of the studio executives came up with the idea of let's just do a balls to the wall full release. We'll make a bunch of prints, we'll release it everywhere all at once, and that way we'll get a huge first weekend sale. And that will start word of mouth and buzz, and then it'll become a blockbuster hit. And it worked, but that was like the first time any studio did that, which is amazing.
Yep. Didn't know
like
that.
Now, that's standard procedure now, but at the time, it was innovative.
Yeah, there were a lot of examples like that. Like for example, filming in Italy, the Michael scenes in Italy, that almost didn't happen. It was expensive. They almost didn't have enough money to do that. And Steve and I just watched the movie. And it's fresh in my mind. If they didn't have that Italy scene, it would have been, if they tried to do it somewhere else, it would have been a joke. It really would have been a joke. But it almost didn't happen. And there was so many other things. Some of the actors, it almost didn't happen. It's hard to imagine that movie, of course, without the key actors in it. It was really so many ways it could have failed, epically failed, and luckily it didn't.
Although, of course, this is partly a hindsight bias, right? We know the movie in the form that it ultimately took, and we would think, can you imagine it without Al Pacino? But what if there was somebody else in there that we loved? And then we would be thinking, imagine they almost had Al Pacino do that role. Can you imagine that? But of course, the movie's best with the guy who actually did it.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is hindsight bias. Which is why stories like this are kind of fun to tell. Because the audience knows the end, right? We know the final outcome, and you would think that sucks all of the drama out of it, but it just creates a different kind of drama where you're like seeing all the jigs and jags and how it almost didn't end up. Like we want it to be in that final form that we know it is going to ultimately get to, and seeing it almost not get there, whatever, is kind of entertaining in its own right. You know what I mean? Because it feels like, again, that's that hindsight bias. We have this strong feeling that it's supposed to be the way that it was,
Yeah.
But it didn't have to be that way.
Yeah, it's almost like you think, of course it was, that was the way that they planned it and it was going to be that way, but the elements come together sometimes very quickly at the very
Yeah.
end. And you don't realize too, like how many players there are in the whole to getting it done, right? There's different levels of people. You have the producer that basically makes everything happen.
Yeah.
Then the producer has to deal with the studio and all of the people that come with the studio. Right, so you have the executive producer, and then the studio owners or the board. The finance department that the studio has, a legal team that the studio has. That's everybody above the producer, and then you have everybody below the producer, which is the director, who has a pretty decent size amount of power when it comes to the production, but nowhere near as much power as the producer. And then everybody else underneath the director, which is the entire crew and all the actors and all that stuff, and they are the entity that stands between the upper management and the people making the movie. And it's fascinating. Like if you enjoy production or want to learn more about production, this show will give you a very good understanding of all of those roles. And the actors that they picked to do this too. I mean, it was done extremely well. Like even the people that were pretending to be actors that like Pacino and what's his face. They definitely did a great job of casting it.
And they did a good job of casting the offer too. I love the guy who plays Al Pacino. Right, he does such a great job.
Yeah, that was a home run impersonation, really.
I just kept wanting him to go hoo-ha. I mean, like that's like 30 years in the future of that guy's life. It's like that doesn't exist when they, the version of him back then. Yeah, I also one of my favorite parts, which I wish they showed more of, was like the actual set building and like when the director and the lighting, the director of photography and the lighting guy were all talking and they're arguing and there's all that drama going on. To me, that is really interesting. I love seeing like the creative differences and all the people walking out of the job and all that stuff. It's got to happen on every freaking production. There's got to be a massive amount of drama.
Sure. Jay, how about the movie posters?
Oh yeah, the movie posters they pitched
Yankee
were horrible.
Movie posters they were going to do were horrible.
That's not hindsight bias. Those were legit, objectively horrible. Yeah, absolutely. I like the part where, the guy who's trying to basically scuttle the movie shows the dailies to the owner of the company, not the studio. Like the studio was owned by a bigger company. So the company now is ultimately in charge, and he showed him the dailies early on in the process, and they looked like shit because they hadn't been color corrected or edited, or they hadn't done the sound or anything. And then of course when he saw the actual footage, that would be in the movie, it was night and day. It was won over to how wonderful the movie was going to be. But if you guys, I'm sure you guys have probably have seen that, the
raw
unedited, like the raw footage looks like home movies. Like it
sounds terrible, and it sounds terrible.
Yeah. Like that cinematic feel really is created, in the editing room with all of the technical editing that they do, and the processing and everything.
And when you think about like the fact that they were cutting film and doing all of that post-production with physical film, the color correction,
my God,
the soundscape and all of that stuff, I can't imagine. When I do post-production for our stuff, I'm editing every week and I'm using a piece of Adobe software that does everything. It's all at my fingertips. I'm one person. That's it. It takes one person to edit a movie.
Yeah.
It's remarkable that they did such good work with the crappiest equipment you could imagine compared to today's standards.
Oh, Jay, when they showed him splicing the film and getting it back together, which I know that's how movies were done for decades and decades and decades, but it seemed like a caveman was editing it. Like, oh my God, can you imagine, manipulating the film at that level, and
no, the process
nothing was
from
digital.
Analog to digital was huge. Yeah. I mean, I remember producing a newsletter in college with my friends, and we would type up the stories, and then we would have to cut them out and paste them, literally physically tape them onto the a larger piece of paper to lay it out, physically lay it out, and if we how do you get the columns to all line up? You got to do it physically, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to plan it all out ahead of time, and then I remember we bought like a book that basically just contained a lot of doodads, you know what I mean? Like the curly lines and all the filler stuff, the brackets and spaces and everything. We had to cut them all out and paste them in to make it all work. It was a nightmare.
Yeah.
But that was it. That was the only option at the time.
Yeah, I've done that
very
too,
cool.
Steve. I used to work for a magazine, and I used a stat camera, which was the camera that took the master pictures of the layouts.
Yeah.
And I remember watching people literally take like a printout of the text, and they put it on a big white piece of like foam core, and that was the magazine. Then you take master pictures of that, and that's it. So think about it. Like today, we have no idea how easy computers make that kind of stuff today. It's amazing.
We bracketed both worlds, because then we did the first the Nest newsletter was all digital. Then of course it was a completely different world.
Yeah, they didn't know what non-destructive editing was back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you guys doing this weekend?
Well, we're going to have a tea party tomorrow afternoon.
You're having a tea party.
Yeah.
Are we going to invite people to your house, and you're just going to drink tea?
No, we're going to one of those tea places, to have high tea.
All right. Well, that sounds better than what I had envisioned in my head.
Our women folk worked it out. Bob and I are just going along for the ride.
If I can even go now, I'm not even sure I can even. I mean, I think I can, but because I saw Mom today, and our mom got COVID last week, so she's been on her own for a week, and she should have been okay by now. I mean, at the very least, you would think you'd have a negative rapid home test, but she was positive. So then I'm like, oh man, so I've been exposed. Now, if I had a mask and a shield on, and so did she, so I'm really not that worried. But it's still an exposure, so we'll have to talk and see, what we want to do. But
well, she's at the.
Believe it, man, Jay. I couldn't believe she was positive again today, after 8 days.
What are her symptoms like now?
It's just her head. Her headache is it's still a little bit there. Not as bad as it was, but she's not out of it. I mean, she's still hurting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's 84. It's going to take her longer than probably a younger, healthy person to kick it. That's it, man. I mean, this COVID killed 1 million people in the United States. I mean, it's no joke. It's deadly serious. Have you guys been keeping up with the January 6th?
Yeah, I've watched most of the hearings, or listened to it on the radio.
It's amazing to hear details about all the different things that were being done. I can't believe it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we didn't know everything going in because they were holding back, information to reveal during the hearings. But like, even though you had a basic idea of what Trump did and what happened, they've done a good job of making a very compelling case that it was a lot more planned and deliberate. I thought it was more flailing and desperate, like he was just throwing crap against the wall and just desperately trying to do anything to disrupt the process. But no, they had a pretty solid plan. They were moving pieces into position, and
They almost did it.
And well, it's hard to say almost. I mean, because we don't know what. Essentially, people in key positions said, "No, we're not doing this."
Right.
But if they had gone along with it, then what the question is, what would have happened then? It seems to me that inevitably it would have gone to the Supreme Court and he would have lost. But it would have been a lot messier, if they hadn't shut it down.
The Department of Justice almost had a walkout. I mean, that could have been it right there. If all of those Department of Justice heads walked out of their positions in protest, then he would have had the DOJ doing what he wanted, which would have profoundly screwed the pooch. That would have been big time bad. But I agree with you, Steve. The Supreme Court would have had to have got. They would have think that they would have gotten involved at some point and tried to straighten the whole thing out. But
the question I have now, though, is it going to sway anybody's opinion? All these hearings.
It appears to be. It appears to be doing that. I think.
Why do you say that?
Because of polling. There's polling which shows that the needle is moving a little bit. More people think that he should be indicted, that he was responsible, that he was more responsible. Whatever, all those categories are shifting in the direction of people thinking, he's guilty.
It's gone from 41% to 43%?
No, it's 58% now. 58% of people think he should be indicted.
Wow.
So it's not as high as it should be. It should be 100%, but it's more than half.
I have a lot of hardcore friends that are never going to change their mind. I don't think you can show them anything that'll change their mind.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, of course. I mean, as skeptics, that's our bread and butter, right? We get that. I'm just hoping that enough people are paying attention that are in that middle zone, right? It's all the swing votes and all those people that really could make a huge difference here. If they're paying attention and they wrap their head around what took place, then it's a numbers game. But it's freaking amazing, like that this happened in the United States. I never thought that the U.S. government was that susceptible. Like it is weak and it is vulnerable. And when you're in a country where there's a ton of people who have very little understanding of reality, crazy stuff like this can happen. And we lived through it. It's unreal.
Trump was literally just reading conspiracy theories on the internet and then wanting the DOJ to investigate it, like wanting the government to do an investigation.
And they were investigating it until
sometimes, but some of them were like, this is a batshit crazy conspiracy theory you read on the internet, Yeah, but they did follow up a lot of them. They actually called the Italian government. Said, "Are you changing votes with your satellite?" I mean, it was insane.
Yeah, it was crazy. But what they all agreed on though was when he wanted to install Clark, that's when they were all like, "That's it. That's past the line, and we will walk out if you do that."
Yeah, that would have been it, Bob. That could have been the ultimate game changer right there. Because if the DOJ flipped and actually started to do the president's bidding, which is exactly what they're not supposed to do, that could have pushed a lot of buttons and made a lot of things happen. That we would be in a very different country right now, I think, if that happened. Yeah, but definitely, it makes me. It reinvigorates me to want to be an activist again during the this next go around of voting season, and it ultimately comes down to people. Like people have to do something. You need to spend about an hour voting. That's basically it. You got to give an hour of your life to make sure your vote is in play. And
but it's more than that. You also should do at least minimal due diligence to know what the hell is going on. The thing is, like, we only get a democracy that is as good as we deserve, right? I mean, by definition, it's a democracy. It can't be better than the people themselves. That's the one thing, you think, the system is going to, keep itself going. And even if, people are out to lunch, that, there's something about the way the system works. And because we have so many checks and balances and we have people who allegedly know what they're doing or professionals or whatever running things. But no, now, unless the voters take it upon themselves to be minimally informed, and unless we hold our elected officials accountable for what they do, there's no check. There's
Yeah.
nothing to keep our democracy from just totally collapsing in on itself, if unless the voters take responsibility for a democracy, for our own democracy. That is the bottom line. That's the thing that's really scary. You think, wow, there really is nothing to keep our democracy from failing other than just the collective will of the voters. And a large chunk of them are living in fantasy land,
Yeah.
My question is, what does it look like when it collapses? How bad is that going to get?
Well, I mean, just imagine if, let's say, Trump got his way in 2020 or in 2024, whatever. You have enough people installed and enough in the swing states where, you had states attorney decertifying, Biden's win and sending alternate slates of electors to the Congress, and a Republican majority in the House essentially votes to install Trump against the electoral vote,
Right.
that actually happened. How much would you lose your mind? I mean, what would you do? That's a coup. That is a coup. That is the end of American democracy, the end of the peaceful transfer of power, right? And if it actually happened, how much would you lose your mind over that?
Yeah.
What would we do? What would we do? You couldn't sit back and take it. That is civil war. And it's not necessarily violent civil war, but it could be procedural, whatever. But
But there's a bigger danger out there, Steve, because this isn't just politicians using their power. I mean, there is a religion behind this that seemingly is making, is influencing or has a big sway in our Supreme Court right now. I mean, just, of course, everybody knows what happened today in the U.S., that Roe versus Wade got overturned. I mean, that is literally a sign of dark times. Like how do you even put it into words? I mean, we're losing freedoms. We're literally losing freedoms, and it's shocking. It's scary. It's pathetic. Yeah. But
What's
this
next?
this is where us as individuals, you can't just vote for yourself. You have to talk to people. Mm-hmm. This is why I still do this on Facebook. You have to talk. You have to teach people around you. You have to make them think. Right? This is you could be a skeptical activist and get involved simply by trying to have rational discussions and at least hold a mirror up to some people. I mean, it's the least we can do. It's the least we can do. And it's easier to do it today than it ever was because of social media. I mean, you have access to a lot of people. I mean, if you just have a Facebook account, at the very least, you could have at least 5,000 people that you could have a conversation with, or at least, have them hear your words to some degree. But, we can't lie down and let shit like this happen. We can't because, I look at the skeptical community and a big chunk of the science community, like, unfortunately for our reality, we happen to be like, I'm not patting ourselves on the back. This is a scary thing to realize, but we're basically the adults in the room. We're the people that take our time to actually think and process information and not get fooled by bullshit.
We are the reality-based community, as the other side pegged us.
If we're not speaking out, if this group of people isn't demanding that the truth be told and demanding that people be confronted with the truth, it's not going to come from anywhere else.
Yeah, the problem is, there's many problems, but one of the problems is that even like on the Democratic side, there's a lot of division over ideology, and it's hard to be fully united for, to say, all right, listen, this is not about ideology. It's not about policy. We just have to all unite for democracy, make sure that we fix our democracy, make sure that it will, that this kind of thing could not happen again. But people then get distracted by wanting by the infighting, by wanting their narrow ideological outcomes. And so you have one side that's basically authoritarian, willing to undo democracy to get their way, and the other side that some of which really see the threat, not enough, and are still focused on things that are not as important, as because without a democracy, then everything else goes away, right? Like, there's a lot of important issues, but none of them are going to happen if we lose our democracy, right? So that's got to be the number one. There are things for which we need to put aside partisan differences and agree that we're going to all play by the rules. One side has basically failed to do that, and the other side has to make their number one priority not letting that happen. But I don't see that as happening.
Yeah, we'll see.
Right?
I think the next two election cycles are going to be very telling to see if people are going to get off their asses and do something about it.
I mean, think about it. If the polls are any indication, the Republicans are, I mean, I hope this is not true, and I hope we're going to see a historical surprise here, but the Republicans are poised for a massive wave election in the midterms because gas prices are high, which has absolutely nothing to do with which party is in the White House. Like, we have no control over gas prices. It's a worldwide commodity. It's basically the war between Russia and Ukraine and the rebound from the pandemic. It's economic forces that are out of anyone's control except for nibbling around the edges, very tiny effects that anything. That's why nobody has any idea how to fix it, because you can't. The White House, our government, cannot fix high gas prices. Same thing with inflation. We can nibble around the edges, but there's really not. This is a worldwide inflation going on because of the rebound from the pandemic and supply lines being choked off and all that. A lot of these forces bigger than what our government has the power to do anything about. But people are like, oh, my prices are high, I'm going to vote against whoever's in power now, and vote for authoritarian assholes who are going to destroy our government. I mean, that's how checked out the electorate.
Having a narrow scope on reality. I mean, for crying out loud, it takes minutes to look up on the internet why gas prices are high, what the causes are, who has control over it. It doesn't take long to get that information. It just proves to me that people are not, they're not even doing that. They're not doing any Google searches to understand what's going on with the economy. They're just listening to news stations, and that's their only source of information. But guys, when has skeptics and skepticism been more needed in the history of the world than right now? I know that the U.S. is in particularly bad shape, but let's face it, like there's screwed up shit going on globally. There's a lot of countries are suffering right now, and they need us. And it's just everybody could put a little bit more energy into being the voice of reason. Trying not to be confrontational as best as you can, and try to get good information out there and try to appeal to people. What else can we do, really?
And you have to vote now in every election as if our democracy depends upon it.
As it does.
Because it does. I know we're not used to that. We're spoiled by having low stakes elections. That's kind of the good thing about having a well-running republic, is that if the other guy gets in, it's not a catastrophe. It's not a disaster. We'll survive. You may not get exactly what you want, but think your life is not going to go down the shitter because the other side won in one election. That's part of the stability in the system, right? Like, everyone agrees for the peaceful transfer of power and agrees to play by the rules, because we know that every loss is temporary, no loss is existential. We'll get them next time. We're sort of going back and forth in the middle, but it's not like. But now that's suddenly, for the first time in the lifetime of everyone who's alive today, that's not the case. It's literally the survival of our democracy is at stake at the ballot box, and basic fundamental rights are now, at stake at the ballot box. We've never experienced this before, and everyone needs to wake the fuck up that this is now our reality. Get off your ass and vote for people who are not saying they're going to throw the next election. They're going to destroy democracy. How about that? Just vote for the guy who's not saying that they're going to destroy democracy at the next election if you put him in power. And forget gas prices, because the election has nothing to do with gas prices. Educate yourself a tiny little bit. It's so frustrating.
I know.
It's just watching this happen. It's like it is a slow motion car crash. It's just so frustrating to watch it.
I know, and it just seemed obvious. The only cure here is voting. It's the only thing that we can actually do. You're right. I mean, there every type of information that you could imagine is out there. You want to hear, hyper conservative information. It's there. You want to hear, moderate or liberal information. It's all there. The driving factor here is critical thinking.
Yeah.
It just seems so obvious. I can't help but think, man, the Handmaid's Tale,
Mm-hmm.
the first couple of seasons of that, to me it was a fantasy, and now I look at that show and I'm like, it's not.
That could happen.
That
shit could happen. Not in this
Yeah, it's
exact
looking
detail.
pretty good now.
But yeah, I mean, look at the Texas Republican Party platform, right? That's basically Gilead. Texas wants to become Gilead. I mean, basically that's what they're talking about.
That's fucked
It's
up.
ridiculous. They want a theocracy. They want a theocracy where they ban homosexuality and whatever. It's the whole thing.
So we are going to move on to the quiz. We're going to lighten the note a little bit.
Yeah.
I could
Only a
see
little.
that Ed was getting a little upset, so I don't want to drag your weekend down. But we have to talk about this stuff. I mean, it's part of our world. It's happening, guys. I wish that there was a lot of great things and happy things to talk about, but today in particular was a very dark day in the United States. It's a day that we've all been waiting for, dreading it actually. But
No,
but
I'm glad
now let's.
we get to talk about the things that go on here in Michigan.
You got some crazy stuff going on.
Oh yeah, the race for the governor, and people were trying to kidnap the governor, and there's like a big wave of Republicans trying to take over everything.
Yeah.
And yeah.
All right, let's quiz ourselves.
Okay, well, everybody, you go to darkenergy.games, as is the usual. We have our internal link for everybody else.
Yeah, Ed, you're going to use that
E4.
internal link that was in the chat.
Hmm.
I am.
Not in the live chat, but the little pop-up chat. That's
Oh,
on
okay.
the back end. Has all the characters after it.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll just yeah, it's always super excited
Who's excited?
in the chat. I mean, the chat in general. Let's sync. They're like, okay, wait, we gotta wait for people to join. Hold
All
on.
right, while we're waiting for people to join, let me give you guys a little mini quiz. I'm going to ask you a question.
Go ahead.
If you read my blog today, you'll know the answer. So don't
Oh.
give an answer if you read my blog.
I didn't read it today.
All right. So if we express the amount of lithium that exists in the ocean as like dissolved in seawater, right? In terms of how many years worth of lithium is there based upon the current use of lithium, right? So we use 160,000 tons of lithium per year in the world, making batteries and whatever. So how many years worth of lithium is there dissolved in seawater?
120 years.
What do you think, Ed?
1 billion.
I'll go the other end, 15.
15 years?
Yeah.
10,000 years.
1.1 million years worth of
Hey.
lithium.
I was
Ed, you
almost-
and I were
Million.
wrong. We
It's
were wrong.
basically an inexhaustible supply. It's essentially, we would never use it all. It's completely inexhaustible.
How
There's-
accessible?
Well, that's the question. It's accessible. We can get it. The real question, it's not how much is there and can we get it? It's how much does it cost, right? So is it worth it? Is it worth the investment to do the process that you would need to do to suck the lithium out. And that all depends on the price per kilogram or whatever price per ton of lithium. Right now, it's not worth it. But the thing is, if we ever get to the point where we used up our land-based supplies of lithium and we need more, 1,000,000 years worth of lithium is sitting in the ocean. Same thing with like a lot. That's true of, lithium is one of the higher ones, but like I know there's, it would take thousands of years to use up the uranium supply in the ocean. There's
about the
cobalt
gold?
there.
How about the
There's
gold?
There's gold.
Gold.
Gold is not a lot, but there's a lot. There's
Plenty for me, man.
There's a lot of gold. It's just not the concentration's a lot lower than a lot of other metals. There's about 40 usable metals just sitting in seawater. And then here's the other thing. We may talk about this next week on the show, but there are something called polymetallic nodules.
Yeah.
They're basically like this big. They're chunks of metal just littering the ocean floor.
What
with
kind of metal?
lithium and cobalt and,
From
and
what?
all kinds.
Volcanoes?
No. They're just, it's accretion around like shark teeth and fish bones and stuff like that. They just accrete metals and they just
like-
form these giant nuggets of metals. We could just vacuum them up,
They're like pearls.
but bigger, but much bigger.
That's freaking amazing. I've never seen a picture of one of those.
Yeah.
You could see one on my blog if you want to see it.
Well, I wasn't feeling well. Okay.
Yeah. I'm just saying, if you wanted to, that's the picture on my blog today, is that nugget, a polymetallic
Well, I'm going to go
nodule.
to Steve's blog right now.
That stat about lithium's probably in the next chapter of the book I'm reading right now.
Yeah.
It's called The Star Builders. It's about fusion.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and they were just talking about the ocean being a source of lithium, and I thought, well, how much is there really? And maybe they haven't gotten to it yet. So.
Yeah. There's a lot. There's a
looks-
million years worth.
I didn't expect it to be black. I expected it to be more silver, but okay.
Probably because there's a lot of iron in there.
Jay, are you saying that you shared his link without reading it to the SGU Facebook?
Huh?
That would have been our social media worker. Did that?
Yeah, that Kelly would have done that.
I'm trying to. Okay.
You see, I blame him for getting me sick, and he's sniping me now. he's trying to show my flaws. Let's do this freaking quiz.
All right.
So moving on to the quiz. If everybody's ready to sync, I'm going to count down and say click, and we'll hit the synchronize button together. Here we go. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, click.
I'm pretending.
0
0
seconds.
seconds.
Very good.
Negative.
Oh boy.
Too quick.
Nap
It's
time.
darkenergy.games.
Here, click.
Darkenergy.games. It should have been in the chat already, but here is.
Oh, sorry, guys. I've been sitting up for too long. Apparently, I have to lie down again.
14 seconds. Very good. Okay. People coming in. They're getting there. I think we got enough people. So if everybody's ready, away we go. What is a funambulist? Funambulist or something. Someone who is a professional walker, someone who picks up litter on foot, someone who walks on a tightrope, or a gymnast.
It can only be one of those answers.
Is it kitty litter or just like litter of animals or littered stuff?
Litter.
Litter. Just that all of it.
Garbage.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
So kitty garbage.
I got it.
And the answer is someone who walks on a tightrope. Someone who walks on a tightrope.
Because it's so much fun.
I guess. And they're ambulating.
Yeah.
And you're gonna ambulate.
Do you ever see those people that do those flips on tight ropes that are like bouncy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Crazy.
like remarkable that people can do that.
Remarkable.
It's like the balance beam. You got to be really precise.
Yeah.
When is season 1 of the Stranger Things set? When is season 1 of Stranger Things set? 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, 1990s.
I'm hoping that most people get this one.
But what part of decade, I wonder? The early or the later in your mind?
Earlier in my mind.
I
Yeah,
think
I
100% of
agree.
people will get that one correct.
And the answer is
Look at the font.
1980s.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it feels like close to the 70s, though. What's the style of bikes? Some of them, like, right?
It's early 80s because now we're in
Yeah.
the season 4. We're in the late 80s.
Okay, yeah.
All right, so far people are doing good.
Good. What does the Mohs, or Mohs, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, scale measure? Is it, I should actually know this is engineering, firmness, water resistance, heat resistance, or hardness? I think it is Mohs.
I'm guessing that Steve knows this one.
I think I do. Not 100% sure.
I think I do.
I'm
Yes,
killing
I
it.
did.
Yeah, the answer
did
is
know that one.
hardness. The Mohs hardness scale is used as a convenient way to help identify materials. The mineral's hardness is the measure of its relative resistance to scratching, measured by scratching the mineral against another substance of known hardness on the Mohs hardness scale.
Like diamond.
Yeah, I did this in engineering school. I remember that.
And sandstone. Or talc. No, talc.
Sandstorm.
And
What was the Beatles' first #1 single in the UK? Was it
Crap.
From Me to You, Twist and Shout, Please Please Me, or Love Me Do? If you're George Robb, don't answer this one because you know too much.
I look like George Robb.
If you look like George Robb, don't answer.
Put my glasses on.
Yeah, right.
Ah, ruined my perfect streak.
Hey.
Ah.
haha.
And the answer is From Me to You.
I don't even know that song.
You should have been listening to the Beatles and not listening to Milli Vanilli, Bob.
Ta-
Milli
Tell me,
Vanilli.
tell me true. Pretty good.
Nice.
It's weird to me to hear every once in a while on the internet that somebody doesn't like the Beatles. I just don't understand.
Yeah.
I heard it in
A couple
person a
times
few
like
weeks ago.
You saw it, Paul?
No, I heard it in person. Somebody said they didn't like the Beatles.
Oh God, I know. I just shake my head. Like, okay, sorry.
Which country is brie cheese originally from? Is it Italy, France, England, or Scotland?
It's a cheese.
The answer may surprise you.
I'm a hard
Is it-
cheese person. I don't
Is
like
it brie or is it brie?
brie.
Brie. Freaking brie.
Yeah, I was going to assume that wasn't a trick question.
Yeah, no, it's from France. I come from France.
I'm a hard cheese
we
type
come
of
from
guy.
France.
I'm not into the soft cheese.
But it was a
I like
trick.
sharp cheeses. But
Oh,
I like
you're
brie
real
though. Brie's the
alpha.
one of the few soft cheeses I like.
You like
I
that
saw a
Melted
one?
brie
guy-
on a sandwich is really nice.
I
hate
saw a
it.
guy eat the maggot cheese, and he said it tasted like ammonia.
Ammonia.
Yeah, some of those cheeses get really astringent. Okay.
Tangy.
Here we go. Tangy.
All right, let's see what people did here. All right. Oh, actually, there's only
Alright.
we got 8 100s here. Seven
Seven.
people got 100. Oh my God, very nice even distribution. All right, let's see here. We
Oh my
got
gosh.
65% of you answered correctly when you said that to a
Funambulance.
funambulist is someone who walks on a tightrope. 70, almost 71% of you got the Stranger
Ooh,
Things.
I'm
question
surprised at how
correctly.
low that is.
Yeah. They actually did better on the
Pretty good.
Mohs scale.
Yeah, what the
Well,
hell?
81% got it
nerds.
correct that it's hardness. 55%.
Oh yeah, love me do, they said.
Yeah, I got the popular wrong answer there.
Yeah, they picked Love Me Do. The 12% of you got the correct Beatles. See?
Yeah.
My brain just shut down. Which country is brie cheese originally from? 69% of you. What a coincidence. 69% of you said France.
Look, we tricked them with the Scottish accent.
Totally. Yeah, I got it with Scottish.
Correct.
Now, I thought for some reason that this week's quiz was going to be super easy, but apparently
Well,
That
that's
was
kind of easy.
Yeah, there's
A lot of the
mix.
answers are in the 70 to 80% range.
It's pronounced fune. Funambulance. That's what somebody says. The fun.
Funambulist?
Yeah, funambulist.
Let's take some
Okay.
questions.
Sure. Oh, yeah, let me get Discord up
I'm
while
gonna-
we're.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
What do you got, man?
See somebody here that you know from somewhere else.
Hi guys.
What's happening?
Hey,
Wait a minute.
What is happening?
This is illegal.
He was cheating on the quiz. I was feeding him the answers.
This
Nice.
How did-
Nice.
Yeah, but I don't
is insider trading.
How are you there? Where?
Ed lives in my
It's a
very
green
favorite
screen.
place in the whole wide world to vacation.
And you're vacationing right now?
Yes.
Oh wow.
Have you been
In
sitting
Michigan?
there the whole time?
I have.
Why didn't you just come on?
because
More
because
fun
of
this way.
Scheme. What was it called?
It was a scheme.
a scheme.
Skeptics surprise.
The
you called it.
Skeptic-
How is the library? How is the library functioning right now without you at its helm?
Yeah, well, who knows? That's a
Oh my God.
I got two really good staff people that are taking care of everything.
What does your hat say?
Says Bob smells like brie.
Oh,
Something
Chaos
coordinator.
That's good.
Chaos coordinator.
Nice. Very good. That's a good job.
We actually hatched this plan about a couple months ago.
I'm
So
like, hey, I'm going to be up there. We should do this.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was sweating it out all day, wondering if you were going to cancel this.
Yeah, we almost canceled today. That would have been fun.
I was like, oh, what if we
I was
can't-
thinking like 2 days ago, and when I'm in the middle of being sick, I'm like, I am going to be at that live stream by hook or crook. I am going to be at the like that was my I'm going to be getting back to normal promise to myself. So there was no way I was missing the live stream today.
Good.
Well, it's good to see you.
Well, awesome to see all of you all.
Ian and I were just talking about you and how angry we are with you mutually.
oh, no. Okay, yeah, sure.
All right, it didn't
whatever
happen,
the bit
but-
is. I'm not sure what the bit is, but yes.
Yeah, it's like, what? What am I supposed to do?
All right, let's jump into questions. Question: America is going through dark times. How dark will it get before it gets better? Awesome, nice and light.
Who the hell knows?
The answer
knows?
is that we will know in the
A
next
lot.
two to 3 years. We're going to have a very clear picture of what probably the next 10 to 20 years are going to look like.
Well, I mean, we're taking it election by election at this point. So we'll see, this fall, how the next 2 years are going to be. If the Republicans win the House, then they're going to just be doing just bogus, hearings and trials and everything for 2 years, gumming up the works as much as they can. Just going to be just a shit show. If they take the Senate, nothing's going to happen. And there's no judges will get appointed. Even McConnell will steal another Supreme Court judge if it comes up. It'll be terrible. And then 2024 is going to be the next big test at the presidential level. And it's hard to say because we don't even know who's running at this point.
So
I think both Trump and Biden are both a coin flip, I think, in terms of who's going to run.
I disagree with the premise of the question that it's going to eventually get better. Just saying.
Bob
It'll
is
get
a
better.
doomer boomer.
Next question.
Read the room.
True though. Question from the same person, just because it's maybe works in tandem. If you turn to the dark side and decided to become rich through pseudoscience, which woo would you specifically invent or use?
Oh God, how I've fantasized about this so many times. How would we get stinking rich by taking advantage of dumb people? That's basically the question.
Which
Oh my
scam
God.
would we run?
I mean, I have had, I think Steve came up with this one, and I have been wanting so badly to see how quickly we could become millionaires with evaporative therapy. This is where you take like a it could be like a hand sanitizer type of gel, or it could just be freaking rubbing alcohol, and you put some coloring in it, and then you sell it to people as a detoxer. It detoxes you in the evaporation process. I love it. And then I also love Evan's idea of homeopops. It's homeopathic ice pops for
Ice
kids.
cubes.
Ice cubes, yes. It could be. We can move into ice cubes after we start. No, I think the true answer, the big gun, is religion.
Mm-hmm.
That is where the
Start a
money
cult.
is at. Start a cult, become a religion.
Too
Don't pay
late.
taxes. You know,
We
Just
already
offer
got-
hope where there is none, and you'll do well.
Well, but it might be contingent on you retaining some of your ethical sensibilities to some degree. I think.
Wait,
the
who said
question,
that?
Right? Well, because it's like if you're just completely a new person, yeah, obviously you'll do whatever grift. But it's like, what's the maybe least ethically problematic that you could still make the most money?
So if we went just barely over to the dark side and tried to
think-
maintain some
Yeah,
you mean Michio
decency?
Kaku, the Michio Kaku
Yeah,
pathway.
the Kaku effect.
Yeah, you sell out to the media.
The cuckoo.
You start talking about complete bullshit as if it's science, like
That's true.
UFOs and all that crap. Just completely and utterly sell out and tell the media what they want to hear and become a generator of sound bites. That's easy.
Yeah.
Our audience would reject us within weeks. We would lose a vast amount of our audience.
Well, we could probably find some corporation selling something that's kind of in the gray zone, and tell them that we would endorse it as totally scientific if they gave us a lot of money.
That's true. But then I would
Right.
expect
would
Ed
never
and
do that.
Sharon to mysteriously show up at my front door and hit me on the head with some type of collection of library books. I don't know. What would be your weapon of choice, Sharon?
Probably the library books.
A
yeah.
big library book, like an old dictionary that nobody uses anymore?
Skepticoin, yeah, we'll make our own cryptocurrency, Skepticoin.
The poison pawpaw butter.
Oh yeah, pawpaw butter. I could just,
Yeah.
Poison you slowly.
I
The
still
thing
have
about
that.
Skepticoin is the less you believe in it, the more valuable it becomes.
Skepticoin. Oh my god. All right, next question.
Next question. I can't deal with the bad news. So, how about which science fiction movie would you most want to see remade?
Um,
I've
I've
been
always-
wanting. Go ahead, Steve.
well, Forbidden Planet for me comes up on the list because
Yeah, that'd be cool.
it's a great story, but it was 1950s campy, terrible production value.
It still
No.
holds up though. I think Logan's Run is the perfect.
Logan's Run.
It's such a compelling story. It's creepy. There's something creepy about Logan's Run. It's there's something weird.
Have you
about
watched it recently?
Yeah, I mean I'm nostalgic about it because I loved it as a kid.
I did watch it not too long ago, and
It wasn't
still
that
love the
horrific.
story. I agree. I still love the story. The production value was way worse than I remember.
Yes. Yeah.
I remember like the one thing that smacked me in the face was the they're in a bubble city, right? Like a completely walled off, bubbled over
Arcology.
city, and so there was one shot which is an exterior. You're still within the bubble, but you're outside of any of the buildings, right? And there's like a lake and a free, a roadway.
A monorail type vehicle.
Yeah, and the water. You could
Yes.
tell by the waves in the water
Classic.
that it was a tiny model.
Yeah.
They didn't do the fix where they make it seem to scale. You know what I mean? So it looked like this rinky-dink little model. I'm like, holy shit, that looks terrible.
But I don't know why, but when we saw that movie in the 70s, it looked so enormous to me. It did. I believed it in the 70s.
Yeah, well, we were very indiscriminating as young children.
That's the first movie I saw twice primarily because I was in love with Jenny Agutter. Agutter?
Yeah, she was pretty hot back then, absolutely.
Damn.
All right, next question.
Oh, I want to see.
Well, we done.
Back to the Galaxy remade. I want to see that one done like really well.
Yeah.
Once.
Which movie? The Edge of the
Hitchhiker's
Galaxy.
Guide to the Galaxy.
Hitchhikers.
I would just like to see
Yeah.
right. It was close the last time, but I just
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't quite do it.
Didn't quite
The
get there.
robot
but-
was too cute. The suicidal robot. It was just like,
And that head.
all right. There's a movie though I would like to see re-edited. Actually, 3 movies, a trilogy. You know where I'm going with this.
Lord of the Rings.
No, Lord of the Rings is perfect. Are you kidding me? Star Wars 1, 2, and 3.
Yes.
I would love to see them re-edited. You know what I mean? Like, and you could probably make them so much better just by redubbing Jar Jar's voice, making the music actually
You can
work,
get rid of Jar Jar.
cutting
get
out
rid
the
of Jar
worst
Jar.
scenes.
Sith.
The machete,
Sith
the
Lord.
machete
Sith Lord Jar Jar.
cut.
Sith Lord Jar Jar.
Did-
Come on.
Did you guys watch
Yeah.
the 6th episode of Obi-Wan, by the way?
Yeah,
No,
finished the season.
I really liked it.
I liked it too.
Yeah, it came off.
no spoilers, or I will leave.
There's only so much they could do when we know where we're going to end up, but it was still good.
All right, let's go to the next question now.
I mean, it's like right in the same wheelhouse. But what science fiction book or series that has not yet been made into a movie would you like to see made?
The
So-
Neil Asher Polity universe. Done. Done.
No,
Yes.
the Gap series would be good, but the my answer used to be the Foundation series, and now after what I consider to be generally a failure of the, I think it was a YouTube, Apple TV did
Apple
it.
TV.
I get now why they say that was an that
Yeah.
was a book that you could not make into a movie or a series. I get it now, because they tried to fix it and it didn't really work. It's still interesting. I'm sort of I'm watching it, and I'll watch the next season if there is one. But it's like, nah, it's basically failed.
The
And
Bobiverse series is my second choice.
I go
That would
with
be awesome. Bobiverse.
That's a tough question. I mean,
I like that one too.
I think Asimov's robot series could be fascinating.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
I'm all over that one.
I mean, a modern view on that series would be pretty damn hot. What do you guys think, Ed and Sharon? What do you think?
As I was saying, I saw someone in the chat say the Hyperion series, and that one I would love.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see that one.
Most of the stuff I've actually ever read in science fiction, which isn't much in that genre, has already been made into movies.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on to the next question.
I'm having a hard time formulating the exact wording of this question, but basically, what is the current science-based way to bring someone around to science-based thinking?
Oh,
That's
God.
that's a long
Yeah.
question.
That's
The
the
answer to that
$1,000,000
is long and complicated.
Peer pressure.
Listen to the Skeptics Guide to the Universe podcast.
Yeah.
No
The short
word.
answer is
There's no short answer.
this is the shortest as I've ever been able to put it. Depending on where they're at, like if they're like, so on the other side of the fence, like, it's probably impossible. But if this is someone that you could at least talk to and reason with to some degree, then you have to start with common ground, and you have to introduce nuggets of logic into their thinking on topics that won't offend them. Don't talk about
Yeah.
their religion. Don't talk about their favorite pseudosciences. Find something that you agree on. Talk about it critically, with critical thinking skills. And then over time, you could teach them some critical thinking skills via those topics that won't offend them. And then you essentially could be planting the seed of critical thinking in their head that they may eventually apply to other parts of their life. But it's a long game. There's no quick way to do it. You're never going to win an argument.
But Jay, you haven't answered the question.
But
You gave what our general approach is, but that's not the science-based way to change someone's mind. The question is, what's the scientific research say about it? And the answer is it's complicated, but there's a few things that just to give some quick hits. So a few things we could say. One is, it depends on the topic at hand. Some topics are amenable to the knowledge deficit approach. Basically, if you give them factual information, it will move the needle. It will change their mind. Not a lot of things, but some things do function that way. For most things, you have to replace their narrative, their explanatory system, with a substitute explanatory system. You can't just take their explanations away. You have to give them something else. And again, it completely depends on where they're starting from, how invested they are in, the position that you're trying to change, what your relationship is with them. So, it's it's still a very, very complicated question because there's so many contexts. There's no one answer for every context, but we do know some bits of information about which approaches may work.
Yeah, that's true. Sharon, I just want you to know I expect you at my house tomorrow at noon. While you have all this free time to travel around the country to randomly visit people.
Yes, very randomly. I've literally been vacationing in this area my entire life.
Yeah.
So-
Have I ever been to Michigan? I don't think so.
So who figured this out first? Was it Ed's idea or was it your idea?
Well, I can start the story. So
Right.
when Sharon, Kathleen, and Jackie were on, you remember that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And Jay, there was a little bit of a lull in conversation, and you asked Sharon if she was aware of any library-based video game. Yeah,
Library-based video game?
She was like, no. And I was like, oh, I do. So I had to contact her because my friend Todd actually wrote one. And it's called Word Wager, and it actually is available on the App Store and Google Play right now. It's a mobile game called Word Wager, and it takes place in a library. So it's
I have to play that.
yeah. So I contacted her to say, hey, I know about one, and she saw my username and asked me if that meant something to do with the city I live in, and I was like, how in the world would she know that?
Yeah.
And then the plan got hatched back then?
Yeah.
No, it was just I knew we were coming up here for vacation, and the last year we met a while ago, but you weren't doing guests before, and now I figured, now I got the ability to schedule a guest at the time I'm going to be up here. So I
Nice.
If you did this with the next two people that we have on, I would be very impressed.
Yeah.
All right, let's take
challenge.
Let's take one more question, and then I'm going to go collapse.
When is the next Boomer versus Zoomer?
That's a fantastic question. We actually have a date.
You do? I don't remember
do.
clearing a date.
We cleared it. Well,
We did.
we set a date, July 8th, which is, or whatever the Friday is, in 2 weeks.
It's the 8th. Yeah, it's in 2 weeks.
But seriously, you got to clear these dates with me.
We sent them out in an email.
No, you didn't.
I'm sure we did.
Because, they take place in my basement.
I blame George.
Don't dox us. Stop.
I have to check with the boss to see if that date is okay.
That's
All right, it's very likely it'll be on the 8th. I hope you guys enjoyed that last week. We had a great time. I will say
fun.
that was, I think, was the best version of the show that we've presented. We came up with some new bits. We're constantly tweaking it and trying to make it better. And I thought that it was a lot of fun. I hope you guys liked it.
I thought it was entertaining. It was fun.
Good.
It's fun to be on. I can't believe how hard it is for me to talk people into it. I'm like, come on.
Well, now that they've seen it, hopefully they'll be more willing to do it. Bruce, thank you very much for saying the last two have been great. I agree with you. The live one was freaking awesome. That
That was
so
just a
much
totally
fun.
different experience. Just the mojo of the live shows are great.
Yep.
But
All right.
we're going to keep iterating it, so hopefully everyone will be the best one going forward.
I think the visuals keep getting better.
Yeah.
I mean, they're smoother, and yeah, it looked good.
Yeah.
That's all Ian.
That's all Ian. Yeah.
Well, Ian, it looked good.
Thank you.
All right,
we
guys.
probably have some fancy stuff from Matt too, which we will show everybody when.
Oh yes,
so,
we have an
so
amazing
shout out to
animation.
Matt. You know who you are.
Yeah, we have an animation that we had made. That's a
He's super secret. Don't tell people.
yeah. We're not telling you anything. All right, guys. If you're interested, please go to nexus.org, necss.org. The conference is coming up quick, and we have some great speakers. We added, I think, 3 people this week that we got confirmations from. So go there and join us. It's August 5th and August 6th. And if you buy tickets for it, you will be able to watch it for at least a month. So you don't even have to be able to make it day of. So show your support and please do join us. It's going to be a great year. Ed, thank you for joining us. Sharon,
Ed.
thank you for surprising me.
Anytime.
Good seeing you
I would have
all.
been more animated if I literally didn't have one of the worst weeks of my life this week. But Bob actually came over and helped me, which was very nice. I appreciate that, Bob.
Entertained and fed his kids.
And
Someone said, I
that's
can't
it.
believe you scheduled against Music Fest. He's like, yes, but you could watch it anytime over a month. Jay just told you that.
Yeah, come on,
It's not
Bruce.
scheduled against anything.
You can watch it at the same time. How hard is that?
Yeah, you walk around with your phone like
screens.
this, you know.
Come on.
Music Fest didn't check with us, you know?
Yeah,
Sure.
they never do.
Yeah, and you figured
the
that
hell?
I don't know, George Hobb would have said something about it. The host of the show, maybe, who lives in the town where Music Fest happens.
Mhm.
I blame George.
Guys, have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
You too. Bye.
Bye, guys.
So long.
Skeptics Guide to the Universe is produced by SGU Productions, dedicated to promoting science and critical thinking. For more information, visit us at theskepticsguide.org. Send your questions to info@theskepticsguide.org. And if you would like to support the show and all the work that we do, go to patreon.com/skepticsguide and consider becoming a patron and becoming part of the SGU community. Our listeners and supporters are what make SGU possible.
This is Hey, so my son has been angling to get a cell phone from me and my wife for about 2 years now. Come here. People can't see you. They want to see your face. This is Dylan. So Dylan finds this in my drawer next to my bed. We are going back. I mean, honestly, how old is this phone? 15 years old? I mean, look at this thing. So he wants to find the plug. He's like, if you have the phone, you have the plug. The plug is somewhere. He wants to figure out, he wants to power it up. I'm like, trust me, you will have no fun on this phone.
I know how a flip phone works. You can just call people.
I know, but Dylan, this phone is older than you by 3. Like that phone is well, not by 3, but that phone is super old. It was bad when I bought it.
Probably can't get on any network today anyway.
Exactly. It wouldn't even be able to communicate.
It's probably like 2G or something.
Why can't you just charge it?
What's the matter?
Why can't you just charge it so I can use it?
Yeah, but honey, I'm telling you, if I charge it, it's so old that it's not going to work.
You can try it.
He wants to try it. All right. Well, I'll show him.
Try it.
He doesn't want to just take my advice. He wants to see it for himself. I can't put him down for that.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
It might work.
Curiosity.
It might work.
Now do you hear him?
Yep.
Might work.
It might work.
He loves to go. He explores all of my caches of all my old stuff. You know what I mean? I have like a few places in the house where I just have like, like things like this. Like, this is what? This is from the 90s or earlier. This is a DAT tape. This thing is so freaking old. I didn't even know I had this.
I had a DAT machine. I sold it on eBay about 5 years ago.
This thing was a recording that I did with my band when I was actually a teenager in a recording studio, probably in the 90s.
Cool.
But Ed, thanks for coming this week.
Hey, thanks for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
Totally fine.
Did you and Sharon think I was going to fall out of my chair? Like, what was your anticipation? I would have been much more.
Yeah, I expected a little more animation, but yeah, you're sick, so or if you're getting over being sick, so it's.
I have when I say I have no energy, like I can't tell you how hard it is for me to even be sitting up right now. It's unbelievable.
Well, thanks for doing it because we were going to be disappointed if we couldn't pull
We're
this
just like,
off.
oh darn, this would have been the only time.
You guys want to see something cool? So my son is super into magic, and so this is one of his magic tricks. And I'm just going to show you what it is because it's just a cool little invention that someone came up with. So you could actually change what kind of card it is. So you hide it with your finger, right? So now it's a 6. And then if I put my finger over the 6 and you very quickly and secretively, you go like this. Isn't that crazy?
That's great. Yeah,
And there's little wires in this card. Like you cannot see it on camera. I think it's really cool.
Jeff, my husband was a magician when he was young. He actually did like kids shows and magic. Yeah. So.
I got him into magic deliberately because it's a gateway to critical thinking. Like it starts a lot of conversations. But he's super into it. Like he just, he's constantly, going to school and showing his friends magic tricks on the bus. I'll let him watch. The only time he gets to watch YouTube is I'll let him watch magic tricks explained on YouTube. And then, so now he's like, he's got a bunch of tricks that I wasn't sitting with him and watching him watch it. Like he just, I don't want to admit that I let my son go on YouTube unmonitored, but a little bit because he's on like a magic channel. So I let him go for it.
You have to get him to learn how to do a cut and restore rope. That's a good one.
That is a fun one. We've seen those. Yeah, those are cool. But he does a lot of hand magic. Like he does things with rubber bands and stuff where, there's lots of cool tricks that he's picking up. It's really interesting to watch, watch his interest in it. What?
I need to find the charger to this.
This is foreshadowing to what my night is going to be like.
You're going to be digging through some boxes to find that cable.
Dylan, listen to you complain. Let me show you something else. Watch this. I want to show them. This is what you get when you are friends or related to Bob. This is what you get for birthday presents. Check this thing out. Bob got me for my birthday. Great. Right, so it's like these finger extenders, and they bend when you bend your hand.
Nice.
Bob thought this was the coolest thing. Like Jay will have days, hours of fun playing with this thing. I literally forgot that I owned it 15 minutes after he gave it to me, and Dylan found it over here on my desk. So anyway, yeah, perfect gift for Bob through me. You know what I mean?
Does he want it back? So you can play with it.
Regift it.
Regift it. Yeah.
Dylan, listen to you complain. Do you realize right now that hundreds of people are listening to you complain? It's not a good look.
I used to dig through my older brother's boxes of stuff too. I was fascinated by what was in there.
Oh, I destroyed Steve. So Steve, when we were kids, we each had a closet in the bedroom. And Steve ended up having to lock his closet because I would go through all his books and stuff and models and anything that he had in there. Because apparently I destroyed a lot of his stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
my brother too.
I used to get a hanger. I'd open up a hanger and I'd pull the doors open just enough to get a hanger in there, and I'd knock stuff off and then pull it under the door.
Wow.
he used to hate me for it. It was actually pretty funny. As like a 9-year-old, like I was about his age when I was doing it. That was entertaining. I got to tell you. All right, I am going to officially pass out now.
Yeah.
So thank you for the after show.
Thank you.
I'll see you somewhere else next week.
Yeah, you have set a precedent now.
Oh God, I think it would be impossible. Unfortunately.
Dylan, come say goodbye to everybody. Come here. I want them to see you.
At least have to find the battery to one of these.
To what? Look at this other relic that he found. Look at this thing.
Boy. Oh.
Nice.
Or I have to find the battery to my the charger.
This was state-of-the-art technology at one point.
We have a PowerBook 100 in the closet still. It will still boot too.
To find the battery to my camera.
Dylan,
or
come here.
The charger to one of
Show
those.
your face on the camera. I want everyone to see how much you and I look alike.
Yep.
Come on.
No.
A little clone there.
He is totally. I mean, I am 100% sure he's my child. All right, guys. Have a great night. Have a good weekend.
Thanks.
Thanks, you too.
Charge.
Get out of there. I was unplugging things. Good night, Ian. Goodbye.